Okay, welcome back. We have just a short little video here going over the theories of crime and punishment to kind of round out the week. So we have really like three things that we're trying to potentially accomplish or do when we think about crime and preventing it or punishing it. So deterrence aims to prevent crime by making punishments severe enough to discourage criminal behavior. There are two types of deterrence, specific and general. Specific deterrence focuses on punishing an offender harshly enough that they don't want to commit future crimes, right? So think about when you got in trouble as a kid. Ideally, maybe if you were punished for whatever you were doing wrong, I think typically our parent, our guardians kind of goal then is to keep us from doing that in the future, right? So you can kind of think about that in terms of specific deterrence. So things that will prevent the offender specifically from doing the crime again. And then you have general deterrence, which kind of is this idea that some punishments can be used to basically send a message to society at large. So if I see you getting punished for the thing, then I'm not going to do the thing because I don't want to get punished for it. So the idea there is that a general deterrent can prevent others from committing crimes because they've seen the potential punishment and like what it could be. For deterrence to work, punishments must be swift, certain, and severe. So I should know that I will certainly be caught and be punished. My punishment will come quickly after I've done the wrong thing, and my punishment will be severe enough and in line with what I have done. It also kind of one of the big criticisms of deterrence and its application is that it assumes that criminals or criminality is rational. It assumes that people think about these things before they commit crime, which, as I can imagine, you all can think about or realize that it is not always the case, right? People aren't always in a rational state when they commit crimes. Then we have rehabilitation, which focuses on programming like education, therapy, job training, and counseling. The goal with rehabilitation is to eventually reintegrate offenders into society as law-abiding citizens. In the US, there are rehabilitative efforts that take place, but they're typically underfunded. So when inmates are released without any type of support via rehabilitative programming, they might face certain challenges. So like without skills or job prospects or stable housing, that may lead them to return to crime. This cycle of incarceration and then release and reoffending, which is known as recidivism, is a sign that punishment alone may not always work. So if we're only focusing on using like deterrence or we're just punishing people, we're not trying to help them in any way to get out, get back on their feet, things like that, that it might not work out, right? We might be seeing these people reoffend. In fact, studies indicate that longer prison sentences, so if we're tougher, quote unquote, on crime by assigning longer sentences, that doesn't really deter crime in any way. But access to education and job training for offenders while they are in prison or doing their kind of time can reduce recidivism or that reoffending after they've gotten out. One of the main criticisms is that rehabilitation appears to kind of prioritize the offender over the victim. So I encourage you to kind of think about your values and belief systems and just kind of raise for you the question, are there certain types of crimes or criminals that you feel are better suited for rehabilitative efforts than others? Basically, like, is there a point at which you draw the line? Do you think rehabilitation efforts are worth it? Are they only worth it for certain people or certain types of crimes, right? So is there a line for you? And if so, what is it and why? Just kind of think about that. I'd encourage you to see how your feelings about that change, if they do at all, as we progress through the semester. Finally, we have retribution. So it's not concerned at all with preventing crime. It's solely focused on like justice and moral responsibility of the offender. So it's based on the idea that people who commit crimes deserve to be punished. The belief is that punishment should fit the crime and ensure that offenders pay for their criminal acts. It's often referred to as this kind of like eye for an eye approach to justice. So you're going to be punished. I don't care about making you a better person before you come back. Like, you just need to be punished for your acts, essentially, is what retributive kind of justice is. So these approaches reject the idea that crime is purely a result of circumstances, and instead proponents of retribution argue that people have free will and are responsible for their actions and should be held as such. So kind of concluding here, these are our three big like ideas or theories of crime and punishment. Most systems, including the one in the United States, use a combination of deterrence, rehabilitation, and retribution, right? Like you can see all of those approaches kind of play out across different settings, different types of crimes, places in the US, things of that sort, right? That is all that we have for this video. Stay tuned. Next week, we'll get into some of the history of the system.